Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Criminal Justice Corner. Here at Criminal Justice Corner, we give you the real details surrounding the case. And just in case you find yourself in the same situation, we give you potential actionable advice so that you can potentially get yourself out of that situation. Here today, we're going to have a very special episode. It is a follow up to a previous case that we covered. And because it's a follow up, I had to bring back the original guest. Russell Little. Russell, since it's a follow up, can you just give us a little brief backstory about yourself?
Okay. And by the way, I'm so happy to be here. I
I'm
loved our
happy to
first
have you.
show. I loved our first show. I love being on this show with you. I brag about it all the time.
Love
So
that.
I just want you to
Love
know
the
that.
bag. Thank you.
I practiced law for 41 years in Houston, Texas. And when you practice law in Houston, Texas, that means you practice law in the whole state because you have companies and people with connection throughout the state. So you actually practice law throughout the state.
Yeah.
I practice both in uh, the state courts and the federal courts, and I practice criminal law, among other things.
Hmm.
And uh, what we're talking about today is a Kentucky case in Letcher County. Uh, that's the easternmost part of Kentucky in the mountains. It's a small town, a little
Yeah.
over 2,000 people.
Hmm.
Everybody knows each other.
Yeah.
Everybody's in each other's business.
Love that.
There's an established elite within within that county and then within that part of the state, which interesting is was very connected with the Democratic governor of Kentucky too,
That's
and
interesting.
not only the Democratic governor, but the Republican attorney general. So as we talk about this, know that those are connections that has come out since our first show.
Yes. So
What
what you're
happened was
saying, wait, what you're saying is we have a lot to unpack. And what you're also saying is that you practice criminal law, so you're a really good expert to have on this episode. That's what you're telling me, Russell. That's what
I
you're
am the
saying to me.
greatest expert that you
That's
could
what you're
have on
saying.
this show for entertainment purposes only, of course.
Of course, for entertainment purposes, we were not there during the alleged crime. We are not there in the courtroom. So it's purely for entertainment purposes at this point. But we're going to decipher the case nonetheless. So we know we're talking about Mickey Steins and his alleged crime. So we know that he was indicted now, he was indicted back in I would say back, but he was indicted November of 2024. So, what happened in court today, Russell? Tell us, break it down for us. What happened with Mickey November 2024 in court?
Well, the most interesting thing to me was, and I watched it just like a lawyer,
Okay.
in that I wasn't listening to it necessarily what was being said, but what those questions meant were behind the questions.
Right.
And the most important testimony of the day, I thought, was the Kentucky State police detective,
Hmm.
Clayton Stamper, who was testifying because they needed his testimony to the investigation to uh, allow the judge to grant the prosecutors uh, the indictment,
Right.
so to speak. And so when the uh, prosecutors got up, the district attorney asked the formula questions, uh, and they played the video of and we showed this in our first episode.
Yes, we
And
did. We played
they
that
actually,
video.
we actually have witnessed, and you can witness the actual murder during our first episode because it
Yes.
was videotaped in the judge's office. Because
In his
what
chambers.
Sheriff Stein is accused of is walking in, sitting down, talking to Judge Mullins, and then standing up and
That
shooting
is the
him.
alleged crime, and it is caught on video
Right. And they played it, and we have it on YouTube.
in our first episode. That is correct.
Right. And so they had to have the detective, the district attorney, go through the formula questions
Mhm.
Uh, but the interesting part was after they finished, then the defense attorney got to get up.
Yes.
Jeremy Bartley is his name.
Okay.
And it's interesting that this was the second attorney that had appeared uh, for
On behalf of
Steins.
Mickey Stein.
Right. The first one was a public prosecutor
Okay.
that the district attorney accused in, a little town. And they
Very
moved
small.
this a couple of counties over. But, a couple of counties over in East Kentucky is still the same area.
It's still like
And
next door, if you will.
right. And the district attorney actually accused the public defense attorney of basically just trying to help or trying to create business for himself,
Really?
inviting himself to be an attorney without having it being legally correct. And uh, they had a big argument during a preliminary hearing before this hearing. And all of a sudden, the judge ruled that the state was not going to pay for it, and that attorney could not appear for Sheriff Steins. And so at the hearing today is when Attorney Bartley showed up.
Now, in your experience, is that normal? Is it normal for a judge to say, we're not going to pay for your attorney? Does that normally
Well,
happen?
part is abnormal, part is very normal. The part
That's you
that's
said that's
abnormal,
normal?
the part that's completely abnormal is
Okay.
that these two attorneys that appear in court every day and
Okay.
probably have had coffee in the little coffee shop on the other side of the town square from the
Yeah.
courthouse
Yes.
in either together or in the tables next to each other, and they've
Right.
probably been doing it for 30 years,
Yeah.
got into a very personal fight in front of the
In
judge.
front of the judge, in front of open court, because it's not a closed hearing. Okay. So that's
And so
abnormal.
that's abnormal. The part
Okay.
that's very normal is that Sheriff Steins owns two homes, had a income from being sheriff, though he only had that income for 9 more days before the county commissioners threw him out. Uh, but he had an income of 6 figures from being a county sheriff.
Okay.
And because he owned the two homes, the judge said he was not legally permissible for him to get a defense paid for
A
by the
free.
public.
Because
Yes. So that's
normally,
very normal.
a public defender is reserved for destitute clients. Okay. Okay. So I see what you're saying by him not being in that, in that way. He had, in the judge's opinion, he had enough money, he had enough funds to afford a paid attorney. Okay. Okay. So proceed.
So,
Now what
but
happened?
okay. So then Attorney Bartley started questioning uh, the detective. And it got to the very the motive obviously came down to when the sheriff found during the meeting in the office, and you can see him pick up the judge's phone when he
Absolutely.
finds that his daughter's phone number is in that phone. He
Yes.
sets it down. He picks it up and looks again. He
Yes.
sets it down. He pulls his gun. He shoots the judge 4 times. The
Right.
judge is on the floor. He then walks around the desk,
Hmm.
leans over to get closer, and shoots him 2 more times.
Yeah. That is what the video shows.
Right. And so it the point was that it was so his daughter, who was 17 at the time,
Okay.
uh, that was the subject or a part of this hearing and the crime.
And possibly the motive behind the
Yeah, possibly.
possibly. And it should be noted that Judge Mullins was now married.
Yes, he was. Um, and so, as the defense attorney is questioning him, he asked the detective, did you know these people before you began this investigation? And sure, he was from one county over from his headquarters. So he worked with both the judge and the sheriff on a daily basis.
Absolutely, because they are in the courthouse and you're
They're all
bringing
connected.
prisoners to the courthouse. You are having interactions with the judge. All of that is normal behavior in a county because that's the jurisdiction. Okay, now what?
So they asked him if they had questioned the daughter.
Mhm.
And he said yes. And they asked, did you question her alone? No, only under her mother's supervision, which is
Oh,
crazy because I've questioned 17 years old before too. And I never let the parents in. So I just think that's insane. And I can tell you the police always question 17-year-olds before and without their parents. Okay.
so let before we go further,
Because I'm going to blow your mind more in a minute.
is that legal?
Yes.
Meaning, was that officer, this person on the stand, was he following the law by allowing the mother in that interview?
He could have done it either way.
Okay. Okay. All right, go ahead. Now what?
So then they ask if they uh, took into custody
Mhm.
her phone and looked at it. Because see, the whole point is, did did you want to know? Did this was there really something going on between this judge and this girl?
Absolutely.
Was their motive, in fact, the sheriff knew before? That's going to go to the real trial. By the way, that's
Absolutely.
going to be part of the subject of the trial, which I'll get to in a minute. And they were like, "No, we didn't take her phone into custody." Which is shocking because we both know when the police are investigating, they take everything in custody.
Everything. They don't leave
When
you
they
with
search a house, they
anything.
wreck it.
It's destroyed.
Yes. But
So
no.
they didn't take her phone. They questioned her in front of her mom. So the mom can repeat everything to her husband, who is Mickey Stein's. Now what?
So then they ask if they reviewed the judge's phone. Well, yes.
But did they take
Uh,
it?
yes, they did take it because it was
Okay.
at the murder scene, right?
Okay. Well, this is after the fact. Okay.
Right. So they did. And so they went through the questions. The detective took the I don't know, we hadn't got the lab report back yet as his answers to avoid answering any of the defense questions. And that was actually very smart
I was
because
about
you
to
don't want to
say that.
give the defense attorney any information that you don't have to, required by the judge, because you don't want them any more prepared than you can keep them.
And this is
Right,
preliminary. This is not the
right,
official trial. So I
right.
agree with that position. Go
I
ahead.
mean, from just a strategic viewpoint,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yep.
So, but what the defense attorney then started asking, and this tells you there's something else on there, and we will hear about it at trial
Which is in
if
a
it's not either
coming up.
suppressed or not. But he started asking about other apps. What other
Oh,
apps were on the phone? Now we know why he's asking that, don't we?
yes, we do.
We know he's talking about hookup apps or uh, secret communication apps. That's what he's asking about without saying it, right? That's what that means.
And what was
And
the
then right
answer?
after, and of course, the detective said, well, we hadn't got that report either. And then the uh, attorney asked this, and this blew my mind because of what this says. Then he asked, were there any communications between the judge and the mother? Lily is her name. Was there any communications between, and that would be uh, Sheriff Stein's
Wife,
wife, by the way.
the
Were there any
17-year-old
Well, we
mother.
hadn't got he said, well, we hadn't got any report back. Then he asked, were there any communications on any apps? That would be a hookup app, by the way, between the mother and the judge. Well, we hadn't got a report back. Wow. What does that say?
Nothing good.
Okay. And then they went on to uh, some other questions. But I that just tells you what's really going on. Now, at the end of this hearing, uh, we had the final parts of the defense attorney's questionings was going to what the detective could say about uh, Sheriff Stein's frame of mind at the time of the shooting as they watched it in the video. And that will be, and we know now during our second episode that the defense attorney, that's going to be the point of the trial, is the state of mind of Sheriff Steins,
Right.
because the question is, was it intentional or was it planned? And see, the prosecutor needed that phone of that girl to show that it was planned, because there had to be communications on there before that Steins would know about, which would mean that he wouldn't have just discovered it at that moment and gone momentarily insane in his mind, right?
Right.
So the DA needed that, but they didn't get it.
But
And
couldn't, can, I should say, can the police, detectives, whomever, subpoena those records from the phone companies?
yes, they can. But they hadn't bothered as of this hearing.
But in the prosecutor can do it now, right?
Right. And I don't know. I'm sure that they can get information, but what about those apps on there?
Now
How
that
about
is
the
a good
communication through
question.
the apps?
So, from my understanding, they would have to subpoena those records from the app and hope that those app providers provide that information to
Uh, yeah. Anyway,
them.
so the last questions were about the state of mind, which of course the detective can't testify to.
Of course not.
And the whole point of this trial now is on the letter of the law,
Yes.
which makes it only manslaughter if there's
Right.
extreme emotional disturbance.
Yes.
So the question during the trial, we now know the trial is going to be over extreme emotional disturbance, which will mean, did he plan it ahead? Did he know ahead of time from some other source? Or was this an emotional reaction to an immediate discovery, right?
Yes.
Now, we know a couple of things. We know that there was severe intent on his part on killing him, because we
Yes.
see in the video after he shoots him four times and the judge is on the floor shaking, he walks around the desk to get close and shoots him two more times.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no, I got upset and I shot, but I didn't mean to kill him. You can't say
Exactly.
that, right? Because he
Right.
meant to do what he did.
Yeah. So
So
my
it's going to come down to whether it was discovered at that moment or not.
and to me, it's deeper now after this that possibly the motive could be not only the daughter but the wife.
We don't know that now. We
We
just
don't know.
know
That's why I
that the
said
defense
could be.
attorney asked about it.
Right.
That's all
But
we
it
know.
could be.
Might be.
The possibility is there now. And that opens the door for so much more. And I'm not saying that it's okay by any stretch of the imagination, but the possibility is on the table now,
We have one more piece of evidence on that.
which is what?
When Steins turned himself in,
Hmm.
because he left the courthouse, then he came back to the courthouse and turned
Hmm.
himself in. As they were walking him out of the courthouse to the jail,
Right?
he said he told the officers that they were trying to kidnap his daughter and his wife.
I'm speechless. What
So
is
you
going
put
on in this small town?
I don't know. But you tie that in with what the defense attorney was asking the detective, who absolutely did not know it because they'd been stupid to have got that lab report back, even if it was ready.
And also, the elephant in the room, why would this judge possibly entangle himself in such a web and entangle himself in such a web with someone he's so close to? Mickey Steins is not a stranger to him. So it is alleged that there could be a connection with Mickey Stein's daughter and Mickey Stein's wife. Mickey is not a stranger. So why would you even allow the insinuation, the possibility be there for that connection?
I'm
I
speechless.
don't
I'm without
understand.
speech.
Right. That's why I'm like, I don't,
I'm
the
without
comprehension
speech.
is not there for me. It's not there. I'm confused. I'm just like, this is this is the stuff that movies are made of. I don't comprehend this. And that's why these developments here today is the reason why we needed to do a follow-up episode.
I do. I can. I have something more outrageous to tell you, though.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else? What else do you have for us?
This defense attorney can win this case.
How? What are you holding back?
He can win this case if the police do a bad enough job on the investigation,
Oh yeah, he can.
if the district attorney is a bad enough lawyer, he can if he can keep if he can small town it the right way.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy.
He and which is outrageous because we watched the shooting happen. We watched it. He can, but this defense attorney can. This is not a absolute loss case. He can win it.
You are blowing
I've
our
won
minds
worse.
today.
I've won worse. He can win
You
it.
are you are blowing our minds today with this. I did not expect you to say that the defense attorney could possibly win this case and that Mickey Steins could possibly walk free after watching a video for entertainment purposes of a judge being killed in his chambers.
Yeah. Remember, he he does not have to prove absolutely or even 50-50
Hmm.
that uh the sheriff didn't do it. He's not trying to prove that. That's not what he's trying to prove. He's
Hmm.
trying to prove, number one, that it's at the very most manslaughter, that murder's out of the question,
Yeah.
that at the very most it's manslaughter. Well,
Right.
manslaughter, there's a lot of probation within manslaughter. So he might be able to keep him out of jail. There's a good percentage chance if he can get it to manslaughter, he might be able to, or just a minimum amount of jail, which you only have to serve a third of. So, uh, that might be one of the worst case scenarios if
Hmm.
he's able to prove that. But he only has to get one juror to be convince them that it's that the district attorney has not proved beyond a reasonable doubt,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Yes.
Because that's our constitutional right,
Absolutely. We all
and
have it. And
as
we're
it
all
should
born
be,
with it. Yes.
right? He only has to convince one juror that they haven't proved that he was not in such a state that he
Right.
should not be held accountable, right?
This is mind blowing. This is mind blowing. That's why you were the perfect guest for this, because this is mind blowing.
Are the very imperfect guess.
No, 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 because you're bringing the facts to this case. You are bringing the law to this case and examining it like a lawyer would. This is stuff we needed to know. I'm speechless, to say the least. That he could possibly walk or get probation for this alleged crime that we were able to witness nonetheless.
Right. It's unbelievable.
So, with all that being said, what would be our takeaways from this? I knew you'd love that
Well,
question.
I think that it's a small town. This is a
Yes.
small populated area where
Yes.
everyone knows everyone.
Yes.
And we there's three truths. I'm actually writing about this in my next book. Okay,
I can't
there
wait to
are
read it.
three different truths going on here. There's the
Okay.
truth that we know,
Yes, the
right,
public.
and that we
Yes.
think is true. What
Yes.
we know or think is true is that the sheriff killed him, right?
That's what we think. Yes.
There is the facts that we have no idea about, the real story, what's
Absolutely.
really going on, that maybe one or attorney knows, or maybe both attorneys know and the judge knows, and but maybe that detective really knows but is not reporting or writing down. There's that they really know, that's really the facts of the case.
Absolutely.
And then there's a third set of facts that the jury will be allowed to hear and they'll
Mm-hmm.
make their decision on. And that sometimes has little or just some connection to the other two sets of facts. It's astounding. And that is the way our system is, because we're just human. We're just fallible humans. And we
Absolutely.
have a system, a constitutional system, that's there to try to protect us and our freedom. And it's like, it's the best of the worst alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of bad things we can say about it. There's just all the other ways that the systems are a lot worse,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So we got to support it because it's the best of the worst. And but that's the way it is.
So what are we
Sometimes
walking?
you got to protect the bad people, because if they don't have a right to protection, then the rest of us have no right to protection eventually. So we got to
That's
protect
so.
everybody.
Yeah.
So there it is. He gets a jury.
So what are we left with today? What are we walking away with? That bad people deserve protection, even like the good people.
What's wrong with that?
I'm
Because
not
who
saying
are we?
anything.
Who's going to decide who's good and bad?
Right. So
Right?
that's what I'm saying. So I'm saying, is
We
that what we're left with at the end of the day
right.
today?
Our Constitution's working, and
Well,
we can feel good about that.
there it
That's
is.
something we need to feel good about right now.
We
All
need
of us,
something to
that
feel
we have a
good about today.
Constitution that works.
We need something to feel good about today, as you know. So, my takeaway today is going to be, if you get in trouble, hire a good lawyer
And do what they say.
and do what they say. That's going to be my takeaway today. I've never had that as a takeaway. Today, that's my takeaway.
Wow. My feelings are hurt. You've never had that takeaway before?
That
That
has
hurts my
never been my
feelings.
takeaway.
That
That has
hurts my
never been my
feelings.
takeaway. Never. That has never been my takeaway. So today, that is my takeaway. If you get yourself caught up in a situation that you need assistance in a court of law, hire yourself the best attorney that your money can buy. That's my takeaway today.
I'm, you've broken my heart.
You feel slighted.
I'm very slighted.
You feel slighted. I can't help it, but that's my takeaway today. Yeah. Well, as always, I want to thank you for being my very special guest on our second episode together. I could not have done this episode without you and all of your valuable information that you brought to this case, because my mind is blown today. My mind is just blown away. And now we got to do another follow up episode, because there are going to be more preliminary hearings. There's going to be a court case. It's going to be more and more and more of this.
Yes, there will.
Will you come back?
Oh, I would love to come back. It's my favorite show to do.
Well, I would love to have you. And I want to thank our listening audience. And I'll ask you to please tell a friend to tell a friend about Criminal Justice Corner. We are now available on the Live Podcast Network. If you're on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and share. And we will see you on the next episode of Criminal Justice Corner. Thank you.